Throughout their careers, Chuck Norris and Bruce Lee have maintained a tight friendship. In business and in life, the two were inseparable. Despite Bruce Lee's passing, nobody ever thought a healthy individual who trained consistently like a global martial arts great would just die out suddenly. We want a concrete response since several speculations and charges have been advanced. Unexpectedly, Chuck Norris has spilled the beans on fresh details about the shocking death of Bruce Lee, which rocked Hollywood history. After his untimely death at the age of 32, Bruce Lee sparked a great deal of speculation and mystery. An old acquaintance of Chuck Norris's, who has been silent for a long time, is now prepared to spill the beans that might alter our previous assumptions. Did Bruce Lee's death happen by chance, or was it only a front for something more sinister? Come and see the shocking facts behind the demise of a legendary figure with us. Bruce Lee's unexpected final act. The narrative begins in the 1960s when Norris and Lee were attaining a high level of recognition in their respective industries. At this point in time, Lee had already established a reputation for himself in Hong Kong with the production of films such as The Big Boss and Fist of Fury, and his career was something he was keen to advance. On the other side, Norris had made a name for himself as a karate champion, having won a number of championships both in the United States and in other countries across the globe. Discovering the intriguing narrative of Bruce Lee's dying days, which is filled with terrible mysteries that have only recently come to light, is something that we should do. When they were competing in the All-American Karate Open Championship in 1967, their paths intersected. I have known Bruce for around 10 years at this point. In fact, the first time I met Bruce was in New York City, approximately 9 years ago, when I was competing in a weightlifting competition. In actuality, I was competing for the title of world champion. Immediately after Norris's triumph, Lee displayed his impressive martial arts talents to the spectators. After the fight, they made the decision to get together in order to discuss different approaches to combat and martial arts methods. They were curious about one another's capabilities. As a result of their encounter, they began holding frequent training sessions in Lee's garden, where they both gained their knowledge from one another. Lee has a never-ending curiosity for acquiring new knowledge. Norris taught him a number of techniques, notably high kicking, which he quickly learned. Prior to his encounter with Norris, Lee held the belief that a martial artist should not lift their kicks over the waist. Norris, on the other hand, demonstrated to him the advantages of carrying out high kicks, especially when an opponent is caught off guard. Almost immediately, Lee saw the significance of this, and within a span of 6 months, he had mastered high kicks just as Norris had. One of the most essential ideas in Jeet Kune Do is the notion of intercepting a move that is being performed by an opponent. This involves responding to what your opponent is going to do while they are still in the process of carrying out their action. To be successful in this endeavor, you need to have a high level of concentration, rapid reflexes, and impeccable timing in order to deal with any unexpected circumstance. There are many different methods that you will practice as a student of Jeet Kune Do. Some of these techniques include punches, kicks, elbow strikes, knee hits, trapping, locking, and throwing. Not only does this martial art teach you how to defend yourself, but it also has an effect on your lifestyle. It inspires you to be open to new concepts, flexible, and creative, all while putting your attention on your own personal development and discovery. Tang Lung, a teenage martial artist from Hong Kong, travels to Rome in order to assist his friends Chen Qinghua and her uncle Wang, who are in danger from a local crime lord who wants their restaurant. The movie narrates the narrative of Tang Lung's journey to Rome. Tang takes on the thugs who are creating problems by using his abilities in martial arts. In addition, he takes some time to tour Rome and see a variety of historic places. The finale of the film is a suspenseful confrontation that takes place in the Colosseum, where Tang is pitted against a well-known assassin who is portrayed by Norris and is recruited by the mafia leader. But here comes the bit that was unexpected. One of the most lucrative films ever made, Way of the Dragon was a big hit when it was released. It earned over $130 million on a relatively tiny budget of only $130,000, making it one of the most successful films ever achieved. At the time, it was the picture that brought in the most money in Hong Kong, and it continues to be one of the highest-grossing films in the city even now. Although it is common knowledge that Norris and Lee had a close connection and a mutual respect for their working relationship, what is even more fascinating is the belief that Norris had about the enigmatic circumstances behind Lee's tragic demise. This is a subject that has captivated and perplexed admirers for many years. In 1974, the film Return of the Dragon became the highest-grossing picture in the United States. This achievement was historically significant since it was the first time that a Hong Kong film had achieved such success. The immense ability that Bruce Lee has as a filmmaker and as a fighter is brilliantly shown in this picture, which is often regarded as one of the finest martial arts movies that has ever been produced. A duel with nunchakus, an intense battle in an alley, and the final confrontation with the main villain are just some of the combat sequences that are included in this film. It is one of the most iconic fight scenes in American cinema history. The next step is to uncover the truth about the last days of Bruce Lee's life. The secret health battles of Bruce Lee. Additionally, the film illustrates Bruce Lee's distinctive style to martial arts he developed. It was via the combination of cerebral methods, rapid footwork, and the complete use of his body that he developed a lively fighting style. The fight between Lee and Chuck Norris, which takes place in the old Coliseum, is considered to be one of the most renowned sequences in the production. One of the most notable aspects of this battle is that it demonstrates the contrast between Lee's quick and nimble moves and Norris's powerful and durable technique. The heavy strikes that they trade with one another add to the reality of the battle, and it is evident that they respect one another as they bow to one another both before and after the combat they are engaged in. At the conclusion of the fight, Lee triumphs over Norris and, as a sign of respect, covers Norris's corpse with his jacket. However, this is not the conclusion of the narrative. Chuck Norris has provided some views on the premature death of Bruce Lee, notably during an event at San Diego Comic-Con that was centered on martial arts. Not only was Norris a close friend of Lee, but he also had a lot of knowledge about Lee's lifestyle and health. During his discussion, he described an event in which Lee had a major injury to his back as a result of lifting extremely high weights. It was because he attempted to lift an excessive amount of weight that he had a rupture of the discs in his back. As a result, he was hospitalized for a period of 3 weeks. After Lee had been hospitalized for 3 weeks, a physician even questioned whether or not Lee would ever be able to walk again. During the Good Morning weightlifting workout that Lee was doing in 1968, he sustained an injury to his back. The injuries inflicted excruciating agony on him and restricted his range of motion. In spite of the fact that the physicians recommended surgery and rest, Lee disregarded their recommendations and continued to train hard, which made his situation worse. One further significant feature that Norris brought out was Lee's rapid metabolism and the consistent efforts that he made to gain muscle. For the purpose of enhancing his physical condition, Lee consumed a diet that was abundant in protein, and he also took supplements on a daily basis, such as ginseng and royal jelly. On the other hand, it is possible that the health issues he had later on were caused by his straining his body to its limits. In order to improve his energy levels and his ability to concentrate, he consumed jelly on a daily basis. It was common for him to consume up to 10 liters of water on a daily basis in order to wash out any potentially dangerous toxins from his body. It was shown by Norris that Lee had an extraordinary level of determination and always pursued excellence in all he did. During one of the times when Lee was shooting in Hong Kong with the actress Betty Ting Pei, he had a severe headache. A pain reliever that included aspirin was given to him by Betty. However, Lee was allergic to the aspirin. Because of this, in addition to the other medications and supplements that he had been taking, he had a significant response in his body, which ultimately resulted in cerebral edema, which is another name for swelling of the brain. During the last evening of his life, Lee was in Hong Kong, where he was being prepared for his next film. Game of death. According to Norris, a fatal response occurred in his body as a result of a risky combination of medicinal substances, nutritional supplements, and an excessive amount of water. The memory of Norris brought to mind that Lee had been sleeping at Betty's apartment and had never awoken. There is a dangerous illness known as cerebral edema, which occurs when fluid accumulates in the brain, causing an increase in pressure inside the skull. This pressure has the potential to prevent blood and oxygen from reaching the brain, as well as to cause the death of brain cells. There is an urgent need for medical intervention since the situation is very serious. However, this was hardly the most shocking aspect of the story. If you thought that Chuck Norris's account of Bruce Lee's death was stunning, you should wait till you hear his explanation from another point of view. According to Pauly, the reasons that are often associated with Lee's profession in martial arts are not the cause of his death. Rather, he thinks that Lee died from heat stroke. There are a variety of factors that may lead to cerebral edema, including but not limited to head traumas, strokes, infections, tumors, diabetes, high altitude, and drug overdoses, for example. The symptoms may differ from one another based on the source of the swelling as well as the degree of severity. Headaches, dizziness, nausea, vomiting, weakness, disorientation, visual issues, seizures, and even feelings of unconsciousness are some of the symptoms that may be experienced. Physical examinations, imaging tests such as CT scans and MRIs, and blood tests are often performed by medical professionals in order to arrive at a diagnosis. Treatment is contingent on the factors that are generating the edema as well as the amount of pressure that is present inside the skull. The most common therapies are drugs, surgical procedures, and oxygen therapy. The overarching goal of these treatments is to reduce swelling while also restoring normal blood flow and oxygen levels to the brain. A lot of people have met horrible ends. Discover who else suffered the same fate as Bruce. Cerebral edema's hidden dangers. It is possible for this illness to result in severe consequences such as irreversible brain damage, coma, or even death. The unfortunate reality is that a number of famous persons have also been affected with cerebral edema. For instance, Alan Ladd, a well-known actor who appeared in films such as Shane and The Great Gatsby, passed away in 1964 as a result of complications resulting from an excess of alcohol and sedatives. These consequences included cerebral edema and respiratory problems. However, it is not the only distressing tale that is associated with this illness. Nicolette Larson, a well-known singer-songwriter who was renowned for her hit song A Lot of Love, it went suddenly in 1997 at the age of 45 as a result of difficulties resulting from cerebral edema that was connected to problems from liver failure. After the sudden passing of Lee, Norris paid tribute to him in a number of interviews and writings that were published in the public domain. Lee was praised by Norris, who referred to him as a wonder and a visionary. He was also referred to as a revolutionary in the field of movies as well as martial arts. Additionally, he pondered on Lee's modesty and kindness, mentioning the manner in which Lee had taught him a great deal and inspired him to improve his own life and abilities. Norris voiced his sorrow at Lee's passing, bemoaning the fact that Lee was unable to live longer in order to realize more of his potential to the fullest extent. In addition to his ability in martial arts, Lee was also profoundly involved in the study of theater as well as both Asian and Western philosophy. He began these pursuits when he was a student at the University of Washington. His library of books on martial arts methods and intellectual writings was extensive, as he was a voracious reader who kept a considerable collection of books. It is particularly well known since Lee's written works on battle and its philosophy are renowned for the serious insights that they provide, not just inside the martial arts community but also outside it. His diverse philosophical perspectives often paralleled the principles that he practiced in his martial arts, but he was keen to explain that his fighting technique was only a metaphor for his more general philosophical ideas. Lee had a significant connection to poetry, which he utilized as a means to convey his own feelings and views on different periods of his life. In addition to his efforts in disciplines such as philosophy and martial arts, Lee was also deeply involved in martial arts. This lyrical attempt was a part of his larger creative journey, and it aligned with his deeply ingrained conviction in the importance of personal expression, which was obvious in all of the types of artistic productivity that he produced. Shannon Lee, his daughter, made a statement about her father's extensive creative abilities. She said that his poetry was first written by hand before being rigorously edited and published. Additionally, she mentioned that John Little was mostly responsible for editing Lee's written works. The fact that he had a lyrical bent may come as a surprise, but what is even more shocking is the fact that one of the most compelling and often debated hypotheses regarding his death is that he died. The fact that it was allegedly planned by the triads provides a fresh viewpoint on the mysterious circumstances that led in the tragic death of this notable figure in the world of martial arts. Brandon Lee, the son of the well-known martial artist and actor Bruce Lee, was away in a sad accident while working on the film The Crow. He was just 28 years old at the time of his death. Brandon had developed a close relationship with Chuck Norris, a friend of his father who often served as a mentor to him in both his personal life and his developing career in the film industry. During the amount of time that they spent training together, Norris not only instructed him in martial arts but also provided him with guidance on how to cope with the demands of celebrity and the difficulties that he had in his personal life. As a result of his participation in films such as Showdown in Little Tokyo and Rapid Fire, Brandon was able to demonstrate his skill and contribute to the continuation of his father's legacy. Norris, who had seen Brandon's development from a little child into a skilled artist, often said that Brandon was like a son to him, and he was quite pleased of what Brandon had accomplished. Unfortunately, Brandon's life was cut short in a sad way. On the set of his most recent film, he was shot with a fake pistol that had a live bullet rather than a blank. This happened by mistake, unfortunately. Despite everyone's best attempts, he did not make it through his injuries and was taken to the hospital immediately. It was a devastating blow to his family, friends, and admirers that he had passed away. In addition to Bruce, Brandon is a member of my family. The death of yet another member of the Lee family was a source of sorrow for many people. During Brandon's burial, Chuck Norris, who was inconsolable, recalled him as a beautiful guy who had a bright future ahead of him and as a talented performer. It was as if Norris had lost a second son, and he expressed his profound sorrow at the loss. He often expressed his desire that Brandon and his father were finally able to find peace with one another. As we delve into the last day of Bruce Lee's life, secrets have been revealed from Hollywood to Hong Kong. Bruce Lee's fatal summer. However, it was not the end of the misery. Concerns over the premature death of Brandon's father, Bruce Lee, have once again come to the surface. Matthew Pauly, who is the biographer of Bruce Lee, provided a comprehensive explanation, indicating that Bruce may have passed away due to issues associated with heat stroke. This hypothesis gained popularity in part due to the fact that Bruce had surgery to remove sweat glands, which, although it did make him appear better on screen, made it more difficult for his body to regulate temperature. It is possible that this would have resulted in severe repercussions in the hot and humid atmosphere of Hong Kong. Additionally, Pauly brought up an event in which Bruce suffered from severe heat stroke while working in a place that was both hot and limited in space. As a consequence, cerebral edema, a potentially fatal swelling of the brain, developed. Although it was originally treated, Pauly suggested that Bruce's propensity to heat stroke, which was made worse by the removal of his sweat glands, was what ultimately led to his death, rather than any physical injuries that he may have had. In addition to shedding light on the perils of modifying one's body for the purpose of looks, this explanation prompts us to reconsider the demands and risks that are associated with fame and physical performance. But this wasn't the only thing that worried me. Additionally, Bruce's passing sparked conversations on the pressures that celebrities are under and the great lengths that they sometimes go to in order to fulfill the expectations of the public. He is of the opinion that the medical professionals may have made an error in their diagnosis. In his remarks, he makes reference to the findings made by Dr. Lisa Leon, who states that those who have already had a heat stroke are more likely to have one again. In addition, Dr. Leon notes that patients who have suffered from heat stroke run the danger of experiencing multiple organ failures, which raises the probability of experiencing severe long-term damage or possibly passing away. According to Pauly, Lee went away on the hottest day of July in 1973 when temperatures reached 33 degrees Celsius, 93 degrees Fahrenheit. This occurred during the exceptionally hot summer of 1973. Lee was there at the residence of his sweetheart, Betty Ting, on the day that awful event occurred. He took an epinastic pill, which included both aspirin and a sedative, in order to find relief from the excruciating headache he was experiencing. After that, he decided to take a seat on her bed, which was draped with a thick and heavy blanket. Pauly is of the opinion that the combination of the medicine, the thick blanket, and the stifling heat in the room produced a dangerous condition that ultimately resulted in Lee's death from heat stroke, which was followed by a stroke. Additionally, he argues that the drug may have concealed some of the common symptoms of heat stroke, such as thirst, fatigue, and disorientation, which would have prevented Lee from receiving assistance that would have been appropriate. To lend credence to Pauly's assertion, the autopsy revealed that there were no indications of an allergic response, such as hives or trouble breathing. The normal amounts of aspirin and the sedative that were found in the blood tests ruled out the possibility of an overdose. The fact that Lee's brain was considerably swelled by 133%, on the other hand, indicates that he had a severe case of brain swelling. Additionally, Pauly makes reference to Dr. Donald Langford, who, after his examination of Lee, concurred with the heat stroke idea. However, this was not the only hypothesis present. Lee's involvement in the martial arts scene in Hong Kong may have been a factor in the Triads, a Chinese criminal organization, targeting him, according to the beliefs of several individuals. There were several hypotheses of conspiracies to choose from. The Triads, sometimes known as the Mafia, were hypothesized to have been involved in the incident. There is a possibility that the Triads were dissatisfied with the manner in which Lee depicted Chinese martial arts after his departure from conventional techniques. One interpretation of his activities is that they were a challenge to their authority and posed a danger to their ability to exert control over the martial arts community. It's possible that this would have been offensive to their cultural rituals and beliefs. There is also the possibility that the Triads intended to take advantage of Lee financially due to the fact that he was a prominent actor and producer. One of the most typical practices in the Hong Kong film business is to refuse to pay protection money, and it is believed that Lee did not comply with this norm. It is possible that his aspirations to grow his career globally would have lessened their power over him, leading them to see him as a danger that needed to be controlled or destroyed. However, this tells just a portion of the narrative. There are many who believe that the Triads had a personal vendetta against Lee, who was well known for his forthright attitude and his readiness to advocate for himself against anybody. There is a possibility that he inadvertently caused some significant individuals inside the Triads to feel insulted or angry. There is also the possibility that his sexual connections, like as the one he had with the actress Betty Ting Pei, may have resulted in feelings of envy or animosity within the Triads, which would have led them to desire to damage his reputation or even further damage it. Was there a more sinister factor that led to the death of Bruce Lee? Well, let's find out. Triad theories and the Lee family curse. It is possible that the Triads were responsible for Bruce Lee's death in a number of different ways, as suggested by the Triad theory. A few examples of these include smothering him, shooting him, stabbing him, or poisoning him. On the other hand, the most widely held belief is that they used a traditional martial arts technique known as dim mak, also known as the death touch. Specific pressure spots in the body are the focus of this treatment, which has the potential to cause severe harm to the internal organs, directly or indirectly. The triads may have compelled or recruited a talented martial artist, either a competitor or a former pupil of Lee, to execute this technique on him. This might have been done in any of these ways. Lee might have suffered from serious complications such as swelling of the brain or possibly failure of the heart or lungs as a result of this fatal impact, which finally led to his death. When we take into consideration the so-called Lee family curse, which claims that disaster and misfortune dogged Bruce Lee's life beyond the realm of ordinary chance, the participation of the triads becomes even more alarming. This idea is supported by a few pieces of indirect evidence as well as witness reports. According to reports, Lee had been subjected to a great deal of intimidation and warnings from the triads, who also seemed to interfere with his film ventures. Approximately 2 months before his unexpected death, Lee had swelling in his brain, which some people say was the result of an unsuccessful effort by the triads to kill him by means of dim-mak. Lee suffered from headaches and disorientation on the day he passed away, both of which might be indicators of the impact that dim-mak had on him. There is also the fact that Lee was seen visiting a restaurant that was associated with the triads on the day that he died away, which has led to the speculation that he may have been poisoned or assaulted at that establishment. However, the most unsettling aspect is the location where Lee passed away, which was at the apartment of Betty Ting Pei. It was speculated that Betty Ting Pei had some kind of connection to the triads, either as a mistress or spy. Additionally, it is possible that she drugged or seduced him on their behalf. There is a possibility that the bruises and needle marks that were discovered on Lee's body are evidence of dim-mak, or that they are efforts by the triads to disguise their tracks. Immediately after Lee's passing, a chain of unfortunate occurrences transpired, one of which was the shooting death of his son, Brandon Lee, which took place in 1993 when they were filming The Crow. Subsequently, for some unknown reason, I was absent from the moment my kid was in my care. Every single thing that I had done in my life would be something that I would want to be of use to him. Other acquaintances of Lee's died away under strange circumstances as well, either because they were aware of too much information or because they attempted to reveal the participation of the triads. Now, let's speak about the Lee family curse, which implies that Bruce Lee was cursed by a terrible curse that has tormented his family for decades. This misfortune has been passed down from generation to generation. It is said that this curse is directed at male members of the family, causing them to pass away prematurely and with great violence. Not only did it take the life of Bruce, but it also took the life of his son, Brandon, in an unfathomable disaster that occurred on the set of The Crow. But what exactly is this bane? Also, is there any concrete evidence to support this claim? There is a possibility that the curse originates from the family's genealogy, which may be traced back to a well-known commander named Li Yuan, who served during the Tang dynasty on the Chinese mainland. Even though he was recognized for his courage and devotion in combat, he also had a large number of adversaries. The great sorcerer who was one of these adversaries is said to have placed a curse on Li Yuan and his successors, causing them to pass away before the age of 33. But this is not the conclusion of the narrative. In a different interpretation of the curse, the Li family is connected to a commander from the Song dynasty who goes by the name Li S. He sold off his monarch and joined up with the Mongols who were occupying the territory. The sorcerer of the emperor imposed a curse on Li S and his descendants, threatening them with death by fire or metal as a form of retribution. There is some question as to whether or not these tales are factual. Yet, it is certain that they have had a significant impact on the beliefs and behaviors of the Lee family over the course of many generations. After the passing of Bruce's elder brother before Bruce was born, Li Huichuan and Grace Ho, Bruce's parents, were very spiritual and superstitious. This was particularly true after Bruce's older brother had passed away. Despite the fact that the precise reason for his brother's death is still unclear, there are others who believe that it may be connected to the curse. In an effort to shield Bruce from the curse, his parents used a feminine nickname for him, Little Phoenix. and even pierced his ears and clothed him in clothing that was often worn by females. They did this in the hopes of fooling the curse into believing that he was a girl. In addition, they refrained from mentioning his true name, Junfan, which is a Chinese word that means return, out of the concern that it might draw the curse. Bruce Lee's parents had a strong faith in destiny, also known as Ming, which they felt was the force that determined the course of one's life. They sought the advice of fortune-tellers and astrologers on a regular basis, and they were promised that Bruce's future would be bright and promising. What are your thoughts on the possibility that the superstition that surrounded Bruce Lee's early upbringing might have had a role in his eventual success? In the comments section below, please share your ideas with me. Remember to both like and subscribe for more content like this.